Hello everybody, this is Naman Jain and welcome back to the series of tutorials where you will learn how to make a role-playing game. So last time we learned how to make some animation on our skeleton dark character, like the idle animation and the walking animation and the attack animation. So today we're going to learn on how to make some basic GUI, for example our player's health bar or the enemy's health bar. If you haven't watched my previous tutorials, it's fine. You can still learn from this tutorial independently, even if you haven't seen my previous tutorials. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we actually start making the UI, you need to make sure that you're working on Unity 4.6, or else the content I'm going to show you is not going to apply, because we're going to use the new GUI system in 4.6, and I must say it is very efficient and very nice and very easy to use. So let's go ahead over here into game objects and go to UI and make a new canvas. Now canvas is basically where all your UI is going to be drawn on, where your UI is going to be on. So this is our canvas over here, and it's pretty much empty now. So what I usually like to do when I'm working on the GUI is I like to look at the Z-axis, and I like to click on the 2D. So now I am looking at our canvas, and as you can see, if I add something over here, for example, I'm going to add an image. And once I add an image, you're going to see that it automatically gets entered. It all automatically adds the image to the canvas, and you get a white image as default. So all the UI that you're going to be using in the game has to be inside canvas. They cannot be outside the canvas, or else it will not draw. So now if you go into your game scene, you're actually going to see a white image in front of you, and whenever you try to move, it will actually just stay over there. Since it is GUI, it's the GUI, that's the GUI, and it's not really part of the 3D scene. It's something of its own. You have to separate the 3D part of the game and the GUI part of the game. Although in future we're going to learn about world space canvases, which actually are integrated within the 3D world. So now let's go ahead into actually making a health bar. Okay, so first of all, what you're gonna need is a texture. So you can basically go on the internet and type for red texture or just red and find a simple red texture. It shouldn't be very hard. And in the worst case, if you can't find any red texture, literally take any picture you can find. For example, this is just a random picture over here. Just literally take any picture you can find. And what we're going to do is we're just going to drag the health bar picture into our assets folder. So I'm just going to drag it in here. I would prefer, it would be nice if you actually had a red health bar. I cannot pronounce preferably. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we have this image over here, and we're going to go to its import settings by clicking on it, and then we're going to change it to sprites, 2D and UI, and this lets us use this for the canvas image over here. Oops, we're just going to press apply. We're going to the sprite mode is going to be single. Now when you have multiple, you can actually slice the image in your sprite editor, and that is usually used for 2D animation. We're not going to get into that a lot. And we can leave pixels per unit just like that. And the pivot is basically where how the picture is going to be rotated. And in this case, we're going to rotate it as if the center is the center. So we're going to rotate it from the center basically. I'm sorry, but I cannot explain it any better. And we're just going to make the filter mode to trilinear, because I find trilinear to be the best. And let's go ahead and drag this new texture 2D into our source image, and you'll see that our image changes to the image we actually gave it. And now there are a couple of options you can do here. For example, preserve aspect. And now what that does is it preserves the dimensions of the picture, regardless of the size of the actual image, the image component. So as you can see, it is retaining the size, the dimensions of the image we gave it, the picture we gave it. So we're just going to leave that unchecked, since we actually need it in a more customized size like that. And now we're going to face another problem over here, because when we actually decrease our screen size, the size of the health bar actually does not change, and that's very inconvenient because we want our GUI to be dynamic and adjustable for every screen size. So that is when anchors come in handy. Now these things you can see over here are anchors, and what they do is they allow your image to stretch according to the screen size. For example, if I decide to move these anchors into the four corners, so I just take these anchors like I'm doing now, I'll just try to zoom in, and I'm taking these anchors and putting them at the end of the screen, which basically means that I'm anchoring this image at the end of the whole screen. So basically it's stretching. I'm gonna go to the scene, and whenever I move my screen, it actually it readjusts according to the screen size. Now you can move these anchors in very custom ways. For example, I can anchor my bar like this, which means that now this thing is not affected, or I think it's not, yeah, it is not affected as much in terms of width, because now it's not anchored to the whole screen, but it's only anchored to a specific part of the screen. But for now, we're just going to leave it stretchable, so it's anchored to the whole screen. Whoops. And now we can just resize it as the screen resizes itself. Okay. And we can have different options over here. For example, this at the top left, if you click this button over here, you can move it around, and using this button we can rotate our image, which we don't want to do now, and I think we did. Okay, there we go. And this thing can resize our image, leave it to 1, and this can resize our image. Now the difference between this resize and this resize is that this goes per scale, so it changes the relative size, as you can see, scale over here, but this changes the absolute size. It's not that important for now, we're just going to leave it like that. And now the way we're actually going to implement the health bar at last is not actually very hard. It is very simple. We're going to go to the image type in the image component and select fill. Yes, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to change this to horizontal, the fill method, and the origin is going to be left. And now what you're going to do is, it's very simple. This is a mechanism actually. You're going to change the fill amount. Of course, we're going to do this using a script, but you can see the concept now that as we change the fill amount, we are actually reducing the health accordingly. Now you're going to see a lot of tutorials out there that use mask layering and a lot of complicated techniques to simulate health bars, but those are just unnecessarily complicated. And if you just go through the Unity documentation, you'll actually see an image type with filled, which does the job for you in a very easy manner. So now that we've got that done, we need to make a script. So we're going to go in our script, and we're actually going to drag the player in our scripts over here. And we will make a new script saying player health bar. And we're going to go in our player health bar. And over here, what we're going to do is we're going to say using Unity dot There we go. Sorry, I just blanked out for a second. Unity engine.ui. That's what we're gonna use. Because what we actually need to import the UI API so that we can actually work with the image. Because if we don't use that, we cannot actually work with this image component over here. So we're gonna just go over to our image and add a component, and we're gonna say player health bar, and we're gonna go back over here and we're gonna say image, or is it? Yes, it's image, and we're gonna say health bar. And what we're gonna do is in our start we're gonna say health bar dot get component, and we're gonna get the image component as we did last time. So whenever the game starts over here, it's gonna say, okay, we need to get the component, and it's gonna get the component, which is image over here. Now if you add this player health bar to skeleton dark, it's not going to work because this game object does not have an image component, but this has an image component. We should probably name this health bar. I think I already did. That's weird. So it's gonna get this image component since it is actually available. And now we're just going to get the player's health, because we need to get the player's health to represent, to show the player's health in the GUI. I cannot talk today. I'm so sorry. I'm just okay. Anyways, where is our player's health? Oh, it is actually in creatures because we actually inherit it. So there is our player's health, and we need our max health as well, which we don't have yet. Because to represent our health, we need a max health. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna create a max health, because we need to know the max health so that we can find the ratio of how much health, so we can know how much health we have actually lost. So we're going to create a max health. Sorry, this was meant to be purely GUI, but I realized we're missing this one variable over here. And when we start over here in our awake, we're going to say health is equal to max health. We're going to go back to Unity. Gonna go to skeleton dark, go to our player, and change our max health to 100 and our health to 0. And it actually doesn't matter what our health is, since we're setting our health to max health. So even if this is 0, it's gonna change to 100 automatically, since we say health is equal to max health. So now we have that ready. We don't have any bugs yet. Okay, let's, whoops, not mean to do that. We're gonna go back. And now what we're going to do is we need a reference to the player, because we need to actually know what the health is. So we need reference. And the way we're going to do that is through static, I presume. Yeah. So if you remember previously, we accessed player through a static variable over here. So we set player.player because over here we actually have a static variable that refers to the script. So we're gonna go over here and we're gonna say player. I'm gonna say player is equal to player.player. Okay, that's too many players. So let me explain this again. So in our player script, we need to actually access the max health and health variables. So therefore, as if you remember, static means that we can access the variable from any script without having the instance of the script. And that's why in our player health bar, without having the instance of the script, because we actually don't have the script itself, we're just saying player dot player, and now we have the script. So now that we have the script, we have access to max health and health. I'm sorry if that is confusing. Just let me know in the comments if you didn't understand it, and I will try to explain it better. And in our update, what we're going to do is we're going to say health bar is equal to, or health bar dot fill amount, because that is the thing we want to change, is equal to player dot health divided by player dot max health. And now the logic, I'm just going to explain the logic. So since if you remember, our fill amount ranges from 0 to 1, and if we change it as it goes low and low, it actually decreases the fill amount, and we're just changing that fill amount depending on our health and max health. So as our health decreases, so as our health goes to 0, the fill amount is going to tend to 0, because 0 over max health is 0. So now we're going to go over here, we're going to play, and you're going to see that that is our health over there. And hopefully that actually didn't work, because it changed our fill amount to 0. And I actually figured out what the error was. Now the problem with integers is that since we're using integers for our health and max health, what happens is, I'm just going to write in comments, when we do 4 divided by 5, suppose, now since these are integers, the computer is going to give an output that is an integer. But the problem is 4 divided by 5, which is 0.8. As you can see, 0.8 is not an integer. What it does is it ignores everything after the point. So it's going to delete everything after the point, and the answer is going to be 0. So what we need to do is we need to convert our integers to doubles so that our output is a double. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast double to these health. So if I remember correctly, this is how we cast. I'm just going to recheck if this is how we cast, if we don't have any errors. Okay, sorry, it's supposed to be a float, and I'm going to explain what a float is in a second. Okay, so the float is the same. All you need to remember is that float basically allows points. So you can, I think I've already talked about floats before. Oh yeah, I have said there's a float. Never mind. Okay, I am not going to explain what floats is because I've already done before. But this is how we cast integers to float. So what happens is it's going to convert this integer to a float and this integer to a float. And when it does float divided by float, it's going to give out float as an answer. And that is going to be the fill amount. So now it can actually handle decimal points. We're going to go ahead. They're going to start attacking. And as you can see, our fill amount decreases. And as it decreases, our health bar itself decreases. Now you're going to realize that it is very it's not very dynamic. It cuts out a chunk at a time, but we want it to be smooth. So there is a technique for that. So what we could do is we could use something called Math F Lerp. Now what Lerp does is it takes a from, a to, and it takes a time, so what this means is it's gonna take a from integer, so it's gonna say, okay, we're gonna change from 10 to 8. It's going to say, let's suppose, I'm trying to explain this clearly. So we're going to have a 10 and a 5 and a 0.5, and it's going to say, okay, return me. It's going to smoothly transform 10 to 5 with this much, with the speed given to it, which is 0.5. So our speed is 0.5. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's what it basically does. Smoothly changes 10 to 5, and that's what we're going to use. It might sound very confusing now, but you're going to understand in just a moment. So the way we are going to do this is going to have Math F Lerp, and we want to smoothly change from the current fill amount. So we're going to copy the fill amount to the target fill amount, which is player.health divided by player.max health, and we're going to give it a speed of 0. Max health, and that does not like it very much. We're just okay, and we're going to give it a speed of 0.5f. Okay, that's fine. So what's happening is we're changing smoothly from the current fill amount to the fill amount we currently have with this much speed. and that whole thing is going to be equal to the fill amount. Now it might be a little weird, that we're having two fill amounts in the same. I'm trying to focus this correctly. Okay, you can that we're having two fill amounts in the same equation, but that's perfectly normal. So we're gonna save. We're gonna go back. We're gonna check for any errors. No errors. Now the only problem we can have is that this speed is too much or too low. So we can only get to know that while we play. And I think, yes. Oh no, this is actually too quick. But as you can see, if you're going to see, it actually just reduces in a flow. Maybe it's going to be more subtle if I reduce the speed. So I'm going to change it to 0.15. And you're going to see that it actually changes very smoothly, which in my opinion looks better, as you can see. Or maybe sorry, a little slower, just a tiny bit more. Hopefully I would like this one better. Yeah, as you can see over there, I like that much better. So as you can see there, it actually reduces much better and in a much more fluid way. Now, it might not be a very big change, but these kind of subtle changes makes a game much better to play and much more fluid, and basically makes the user experience much more better. So there you go, guys. A simple health bar there, and of course it looks very simple, but later on we're gonna have a health like an actual frame and a bar to put it in to make it look much neater and nicer. But this was just to give you some basics on the new UI system that Unity decided to implement, which I'm really happy about. So there you go, guys. Thank you for watching my video. If you've liked it, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps me a lot and encourages me a lot to make more videos. And see you next time.